All right, there we go. Hello, and welcome to my first Tombstone Tuesday night, where we're going to draw, paint, art, Western movies, Western shows, Western TV shows, Western. It's a Western theme. Tombstone, the home of gamblers and gunfighters. This one all be based on just what happens in Tombstone, but it's Tuesday night, and Tombstone Tuesday is a good name because I think that everybody will kind of understand. Tombstone sounds like Western stuff. So we'll just keep it easy like that. So, what I had planned to do tonight, I had planned to paint this portrait of John Wayne from True Grit. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to ink this drawing instead. So I did this drawing first to kind of, and I use the same size drawing paper as I do drawing board, and it's a 9 by 12 inch American size. And uh, if you've been following me, the first one I did was from the movie Tombstone. I did a side portrait of Wyatt Earp, Kurt Russell, and then I did Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday from the movie Tombstone. For the next one, I want to do John Wayne from True Grit, which is one of my favorite Western movies as well. Man, I got my drawing board all jacked up, but that's okay. Um, but like I said, I had planned to paint this version. So why aren't I painting? Because let me show you. I started this painting on Thursday, which is Fantasy Art Thursday, and I'm not done with it yet. Um, and so my palette still has all the paint for this. Did I just freeze? All right. Oh, what just happened? Did we lose? Did I freeze up? Something's not working right. Can someone tell me if they can see my hands moving on the screen, or is the front screen frozen? I'm not sure what's happening here. Oh, it looks like the screen froze for a second. Let me jump out and jump in and see if that corrects it. I got kicked out of the show. Okay. I'm sorry about this. I am going to have to. There we go. Is this working now? All right, there we go. I'm back. It got frozen there for a second. So I apologize for that. So, like I was painting from Fantasy Thursdays. So, instead of painting True Grit, I'm going to do an ink drawing of True Grit. And the paint is still on my palette from the previous painting, so I have to finish that one first. But True Grit is one of my favorite shows, one of my favorite movies. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Um, this is my sketch, and I transferred my sketch to my painting board, and I'm going to paint it. But one of the things that I decided to do after I attended a workshop this summer was because I always have to do a nice detailed sketch before I do a painting. but I don't always transfer all the detail to the painting. The detailed drawing and maybe do a tighter pencil or ink it, and then transfer it over to your painting board and paint over it. And then I'll have a nice drawing as well as a nice painting. So that's what I'm going to do. We'll save this for another time, but we are going to ink True Grit, John Wayne. Now, this is one of my favorite shows, one of my favorite movies. And this scene here is reference pictures. This scene here is at the end of the movie, and I think it's Robert Duvall and John Wayne are facing off, and John Wayne says something, and Duvall says, "That's bold talk for a one-eyed fat man." And then John Wayne says, "Feel your hands, you son of a bitch." And he puts the reins of the horse in his mouth, and he charges forward or for the gunfight. One of my favorite scenes. So we're gonna ink this tonight. Uh, I do want to. There's a few spots I think I want to. I think I want to show. So this is the reference from the movie, but I think I want to bring this out just a little bit. I think this shoulder comes in just a little bit too narrow, and I'm going to fill this out just a little bit more. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Uh, and let me get my eraser here to erase some of these stray lines I don't want. I don't want to confuse myself once I start inking. But I try to spend a fair amount of time on the sketch. Uh, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I do try to do it fairly well. But I leave enough, I try to leave enough to give me some artistic license once once I start either inking it or painting it. And since I'm inking this one, if I was doing a pencil drawing, then I would erase this whole thing very lightly, and then I'd come back over it with a really tight pencil. Um, Pencil drawings are hard because there's lots of erasing and tightening up involved. And then you have to be careful not to erase the lines that you want to keep, while at the same time erasing the lines that you don't want. So you have to gradually get tighter and tighter with your pencils and darker and darker. And I like that, just bringing that shoulder out just a little bit more, because John Wayne was known for his broad shoulders, right? So I want to try to emphasize that. Now this one I think is a little bit too high, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. And at this point, I'm not trying to make it movie accurate. The sketch was probably more movie accurate, but I'm trying to make it artistically pleasing now. I want it to look good as opposed to be directly copied from the movie per se. And one of the things, if we're talking about John Wayne, you want to keep the shoulders broad. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. I'm going to say thank you now for stopping by and hanging out with me just a little bit. We are simulcasting on YouTube so that we will have a replay venue. And I'm actually going to bring this up even higher. And really emphasize those broad shoulders. The shoulders were really the only part I wanted to kind of redo. I didn't like the way they came out the first time. Hope everybody had a pretty decent summer. I took off for the summer. I took a summer break. I don't think I had one show this summer. I tried to hang out on a couple of shows and show some support for other people. But for me, I didn't. I didn't have any shows this summer. Um, I definitely didn't do any art raids. Those those are a little intense sometime as far as the time they take up. I enjoy doing them, but preparing for them always seems to take more time than what I allot. So now that I'm back, I'll probably jump on a couple of art trains. I said raids, I meant art trains. See, I like that, but now that's too, the perspective is wrong on that now. Ugh. So where's my big eraser? Again, I want to thank everybody for taking a moment just to hang out. And I'm going to be inking this picture of John Wayne from True Grit tonight. As soon as I finish messing around with the pencils for his shoulder, that I just wasn't happy with this left shoulder. Are there any Western fans out there, people who love Western movies as much as I do? I have seen so many Western movies. I used to love the spaghetti Westerns growing up. I used to watch them with my dad. Uh, I think Clint Eastwood is probably my favorite Western actor. Um, I really like Clint. And then he turns out to be, so much more, than an actor. When he gets into directing and producing, it's like, oh my God, he did? He turned 100? Oh my God. The last time I saw him was on the Ellen show. And, he was, you could tell he was older, but he still was Clint, right? I mean, just, I don't know. There's something about him that just, I'm like, that's a good dude. He seems like a good dude. Um, wasn't he like the mayor of a small California town for a little while, or a councilman or something? But he turned out to be a really good director too. Um, like I loved Million Dollar Baby. That was just so good. Okay, I like that a little bit better, but I want to bring it out. Million Dollar Baby, that was really good. Another one of my favorite shows. It's a tearjerker, and I don't think it was meant to be. Well, I shouldn't say it wasn't meant to be. I didn't know it was going to be when I saw it the first time. And I'm like, oh my God, you can make me cry. Carmel, he was the mayor. Okay, we got another Clint fan out there. I dig it. All right, I like those shoulders a little bit better. First time was too narrow. Second time was too wide. The third time was just right. So now I'm going to go ahead and ink this. And first thing I'm going to do, and what I like to do is make sure the lines that I don't like, I like to make sure they're erased relatively hard because I do need to come in and kind of do a light erase over the whole thing because this pencil, I'm kind of heavy handed on my pencils. And so when I ink, sometimes it's hard for me to tell the difference between the ink and the uh, pencil. So what I like to do is I like to just take my kneaded eraser and I just roll it over just to lighten it up a little bit and pick up some of the loose graphite. And also, it helps me not smudge. It helps the ink stick to the paper and not to the graphite. Again, thanks everybody for hanging out. We're going to be inking John Wayne True Grit. I don't know if my camera cut off when I was talking about it before, but this is toward the end, one of my favorite scenes where Duvall calls him a one-eyed fat man. And then John Wayne replies, he grabs his rifle in his right hand and his pistol in his left. He puts the rings to the horse in his mouth, and he says, "Feel your hands, you son of a bitch." I, I love that scene. Oh my God, I love that scene. All right, so let's get to inking. And I got a pretty nice tight drawing, and I'm gonna have a lot of deep blacks in this one. So before I get into the deep blacks, I really want to get the line work in and then come in. And I just did a light eraser. And then I need to come in and do a hard erase and get rid of a lot of those pencil lines before I go in with my ink brush. So I like the Copic multi-liners. I also do use the microns, but I like the multi-liners because they're refillable. And so I've had these for a while, and I only have to buy refills. I don't have to buy new pens. And then for brushwork, I use a Pentel brush pen, which I really love this. I can get some nice flow out of that. And I also have a calligraphy pen that I use sometime. That's kind of cool to get some crazy waves and shapes. And if I have large areas to ink, then I've got the Copic wide marker. All right. I like to start off with a 0.3 because then I can go thicker with my 0.5 or thinner with my 0.1. So I'm going to ink this whole thing. Most of this. Well, yeah. I think I'll ink most of this with the 0.3, and then I'll come in with the 0.5 for some areas I really want to highlight, and the 0.1 for the final details at the end. I really like my 0.1, but the problem is it's so small and I am so heavy-handed that a lot of times I end up pushing the nib into the pen, ruining the pen. And so I have to really be careful on my 0.1s. But we're going to start off and let's do a time hack. We're at 9:53. So we'll do a time hack. This shouldn't take a tremendous amount of time. And my camera is right above my head. So hopefully I don't bump it as much either. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Just type them into the chat. Uh, I just put two things in the bin. They're from sketch cards I did this Saturday. If you don't know what my shows are, I just started this one, Tombstone Tuesday night. On Thursday, I do on Friday, I do Fantasy Fridays, and that's when I do my fantasy art. And that's what I've been doing for, well over a year now, I'm pretty sure. Was Fantasy Fridays or Fantasy Thursdays. I forget which one it was. But I switched it up to Friday nights just because of time. I have more time on Friday nights than Thursday night. Plus, it's football season. And then On Saturday, which has been very popular, I do sketch card Saturday night, and that's when I do my comic art. I do the comic fan art. I do the request for fan art. I do all that stuff. So two of the sketch cards I did for sketch cards Saturday night. I did a Superman and a Wonder Woman, and they are both in the bin right now. But that's all I have in there right now. Again, I just got off my summer break, and so I'm refilling the bin now. And I love pen and ink. So I love pencil. I love drawing so much. Um, I love the art of line. I mean, when you see, this is that part of me that remembers when I first started drawing before elementary school. I've always loved drawing. Pencil, paper, cheap, go. I've always loved it. I always will. And that pencil stage is what I love most about art, to be honest. It's just the rawness of it and the simplicity of it and the things you can do, um, especially if you really get into a detailed pencil drawing with grayscale. There's just so much you can do. Again, I just love it. One of the hardest things to do when I'm inking is, so since I drew this and I'm not inking somebody else's work, like in comics, you might be inking somebody else's work, so you have to learn how to follow their lines. This is my art, and so I'm following my own lines. So most of these curves and straights are from my natural tendencies of the way I normally draw. However, I have a tendency to not follow what I had before. Um, maybe something just speaks to me differently, like that shoulder. When I drew it a couple of weeks ago, I was fine with it. But tonight, I was like, no, I don't like it. And so I wanted to draw it over again. So I had to find new lines. And that's one of those things that, sometimes I have to do when I'm inking is find that line that I was happy with when I penciled it. And this part actually should, you would think this would be the easy part, but this is actually the hard part because I know what I was thinking when I drew it, but in the moment, I may just be, I may just feel differently about it. I may just feel differently about it. In spots like that, you may see me put a little squiggle, and that's to remind me to just black that out. Um, because there are some areas that I know I want to black out already. And so I don't want to do it now because like I said, I have to come back with a heavy erase. Once I do this, I'm not, it is a sketch. And so I don't want those lines underneath the final ink. And so I like to come in and do a little bit heavy eraser. I never get all the lines erased, which is fine because then it's twofold. One, it's that uh, authenticity for whoever takes it home that this was handmade, no, not computer. This is a hand drawing, and underneath you can see the underdrawing. And a lot of people like that. A lot of people like to be able to see some of the stray pencil marks underneath so that they know, yeah, this is the real deal. Now I should use my template right there because those are two real circles or ovals. Um, so in that case, I don't even know if my templates are here. Just whew. Because one of the things that can make something look funky is when your mind is telling you that's a real shape and you don't see it. So I'm going to see if I have that shape first of all, because I might not even have it. I do have it. Okay. So because that is a true shape, it's probably best if I use the template rather than try to freehand that one. Because otherwise it will look funky. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be relatively correct. Again, that's one of those things that your mind will see it and go, the perspective on that doesn't look right. And so just to avoid that, we'll go ahead and use our template on that. And I think that's the only place that's a true shape. And so that'll help a lot. All right. Also usually don't start with the face. I like to make sure my pens are working good, that the ink is flowing good. And if I mess up on the clothing, it's not a big deal. It is not a big deal at all. On the other things here is those are straight lines and they're parallel lines. And if they're off, it'll look a little weird. So I'll go ahead and I'll use my rolling parallel to make sure that those lines are correct. There we go. So the gun barrel will be proper. The other good thing I like about True Grit is Lawyer Daggett. I will contact my lawyer Daggett and he will sue you and you will lose everything you have. True Grit is such a good movie. It's First time I saw it was with my dad when I was growing up, and had to stay up late to see it, which he let me do. Now, if I'm not mistaken, some of these folds, I'm probably messing them up, but that's okay. I think some of these are just reference lines for me, but when I come in with my deep blacks, I'll get it all worked out. The other reason I like to now sometimes on some sketches, I like to use the brush for the entire picture because that's a fluidity that just looks absolutely gorgeous when the whole picture is brushwork, because these lines are all uniform, you know, because I'm using a multi-liner, they're all the same size. It takes away a little bit of the dynamic view, but using just the pen is requires a little more concentration. And normally if I do brush an entire ink picture, I can't do it live because I'm so engrossed in, because the ink brush is not like paint. So when I'm painting, I can do other stuff. I can pay attention to the chat. I can chat, um, because paint's very forgiving. I can I can I can fix most mistakes. Ink on white paper, there's not a lot of stuff I can fix relatively easy. And if I can fix it, fixing it so it still looks good is a different story entirely. But I do love just sitting down with a nice picture and inking the whole thing sometimes. It is it's a joy because it takes two of the things I love to do the most: draw and paint. I'm just painting with ink versus pencil. And those drawings come out to just be absolutely fantastic. Sometimes at a con for some of the sketch arts, I'll just do a brush sketch, um, and it comes out looking beautiful. But also, is the person understands that it's an on the spot sketch, so the expectation of it being perfect is a little bit different. Sometimes people are like, I you take your time. It's like, okay, we're at a convention. I only got so much time to do this. So I asked him, do you want me to take it home and do it? Or do you want it done now? And do you want to see me do it? And most of the time it's, well, I want you to do it now and I want to see you do it. So I'm like, okay, that's going to be a little bit different. And it's going to be the best work I can do right now with the convention going on and people coming up to the table, people leaning on the table, sometimes people bumping the table. That's one of those things that I used to get really upset about is people bumping the table while I'm trying to do a sketch for someone. And then I finally learned don't do that. And I got a little kit that I can do the sketch off of the table. So if somebody bumps the table, I'm not ruining somebody's drawing. But that was one of those things I had to learn on how to do convention sketches. So now that I'm kind of warmed up, although I'm warmed up I was warmed up previously. I shouldn't say now that I'm warmed up. I've been warmed up because I did some drawing before I actually started this. But now that I see that the pins are working pretty good and I've got a nice steady flow, I'm comfortable coming in and doing the face. And some of the areas I try to come in a little bit lighter because I know I don't necessarily want to have heavy lines there. And I'm too lazy just to switch over to my point one. Rooster Cogburn. Again, I want to take a moment to say thank you for everyone who stopped by, whether it was just for a moment or you're hanging out. I appreciate it. This is one of those things that I would do anyway. Like, and I mean, drawing. I'm going to draw anyway. So why not do it where people can see it? Because, and I do record this, I multicast it on YouTube so that whoever buys it, they can say, I saw him do it and it is original work. It's not any AI stuff, it's his work. This is the original. Um, and I think that's real important these days. I think it's very important to be able to say and have confidence that the artwork you're buying is original artwork handmade by the person you're buying it from. I keep wondering if, as I lean over, if my big head is getting in the way. If my head gets in the way, just holler at me. So, what are some of the other Tombstone Tuesday drawings I have coming up? I have uh, Butch and Sundance from the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. If you saw that movie with Robert Redford and Paul Newman, I'll be drawing and I'll be inking. I already drew it. I'll be inking and painting that end scene where they run out of the building to face the Peruvian army. Another iconic scene, and I love that they argue all the way up into the end, like true friends. And he's like, "I got another idea." He's like, "I'm tired of your ideas. I don't want to hear anything about your ideas." And he goes, "Australia." Secretly, I think you really wanted to know, so I told you. Oh my God, that was so funny. I love the scene where the one guy wants to challenge Paul Newman to lead the gang, and he says, "Well, first we got to get the rules." And the guy's like, "What rules?" And then he just clocks him. Boom. Where if there's no rules, then let's get started. He's like, "We're gonna have this fight, and whoever wins, there's no hard feelings." And then he goes over to Sundance. If he wins, shoot him. Oh my God. That's another great movie. They decide to have the same girlfriend. Just really good friends all the way up into the end. So we're almost done with the basic line work on this one. And I'm going to title this one One Eyed Fat Man. I was kicking it, the idea of either calling it One Eyed Fat Man or Feel Your Hands. And I decided on One Eyed Fat Man. Hopefully, I'm staying on the screen as I move this around. I had a lot of fun sketching this out. And usually, when I just do pencil work, it's very soothing. Um, it's very freeing. If I don't like something, I can just erase it. There's no pressure. Not like now, where if I booyah and put a big ink mark somewhere I don't want it, I've got to deal with it at that point. Whereas with the pencil, I don't have to deal with anything. If I don't like something, I can just erase it. I can draw over it. I can keep fiddling with it until I like it. But normally when I go to ink it, like today, I find areas that I really am not super happy with because I'm about to go permanent. And so I revisit some areas like I did today. Feel your hands, you son of a bitch. And there we go. So as you can see, the ink makes it look a lot nicer and tighter, but you still see that shadow of the pencil lines underneath. And so the lines don't look real crisp. And so when I come back, and I'm actually going to, I know this knuckle here. I use my point one for that. So I'm just giving that a minute to make sure that the ink is dry. But now I come in. So before I went over lightly with my kneaded eraser, and now I'm going to come in with my hard eraser and really dig in and try to get most of that line work out of there. I can do it with the kneaded eraser too, but this one's a little more I can really bear down on it a little bit harder. And again, the multi-liner doesn't smear like the ink would. And as you see, when I start erasing it, that ink work really starts to pop once I get rid of those gray shadows underneath. And there was a spot that wasn't dry and it smeared, but that's okay. Because I can jump on it real quick. And I don't even know why that spot wasn't dry yet. That was a basic line. I like to make sure the face is nice and clean. Now, as I start working some of the deeper blacks, I have to be careful because now when I'm using my ink brush, there is a potential to smear. Sometimes I smear on purpose. Most of the time it's not. But sometimes it's nice to, do a little smear, put some ink in and smear it, get a different effect. I have cotton swabs that I use sometime to intentionally smear it. Sometimes I use my finger if I'm in a hurry. But using the finger's dangerous because then I've got ink on my finger. And I'm a toucher. I got to touch my artwork while I'm working on it. Move it around, both hands. So I'm going to be inking from left to right because I'm right-handed. And that will hopefully prevent me from smearing a lot. I'm going to smear it. It's just nature of the beast. So now that line works look a lot cleaner, a lot tighter. And when I add in some of those deep blacks, it's going to be really nice. And then when I come in with the detailed pen and get some really cool effects going. Where's my brush? Get this eraser out of the way. All right. So there's some areas I know that are going to be solid black, and then there's some areas that I'm not sure. So some things will change. One of the first things I think I'll do is I kind of want to do an outline. No, I don't want to do that yet. I don't want to do that yet because that will help me with the lighting, some of those areas. So I've got my reference photo here, and I know I'm going to black out the eye patch. I know there's some wrinkles and folds over here I'm going to black out. Uh, Parts of the gun are going to be blacked out. I may black out the whole shirt underneath so that the reins and the suspenders pop and his arm pops. Um, some of the shadow over here under the neck. Um, and then I'm probably going to cross hatch some of it. So let's get started. And I'll start off first by making sure that my pen doesn't glob on me. Get that first glob of ink out and make sure that I got a full capsule. Ooh, I don't have a full capsule. It's about half empty. So I don't know if it's going to make the whole drawing. It might. Are there any Western favorites out there? Uh, any favorites people love as far as Western movies? For Clint Eastwood, what else I say? I have Butch and Sundance that's coming up, and wow, I feel like I've got another one ready to go too. I can't think of what it is though. So that's not good. For Clint Eastwood, I'm probably gonna do The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or something from that trilogy, because that's just I don't know what else would be. I mean, it's Clint Eastwood. I don't know what else. Actually, I take that back. I could do something from Rawhide for Clint Eastwood because he was I liked him in Rawhide as well, which is when I first, you know, that's when I think that was when I first was like, oh, that dude's bad. Not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. And I love that show as well. The paper I'm using is Strathmore 300. This one is smooth. I usually use a vellum, um, but I bought a pack of the smooth to see which ones I like inking on better. Do I like inking on the vellum more, or do I like inking on the uh, smooth more? I don't know. I haven't really come up with a preference one way or the other yet, but I've got a whole pad of paper, 300 GSM to figure it out. So a lot of the next, I shouldn't say a lot of, the next 14 will probably be from the smooth, unless I find that I just really don't like it. Because I do like the vellum. It's a more rugged surface, and I definitely like it for painting better when I'm using gouache or watercolor. Um, for the for the marker, for my markers, I use the Ohuhu markers. I think the smooth is good for the markers because it gives a good blending surface. But so does the vellum. The vellum just gives you a natural texture and weight that on the finished product looks and feels really nice, in my very humble opinion. So once I get in this initial round of deep blacks, I will probably do a little of the detail, and then I'll see other areas that I change my mind on and come back and just completely black them out. And I really haven't picked a light direction yet because from the show, I don't think this scene had any type of dramatic lighting because it was outdoors, and the light is pretty much coming full force into John Wayne's face. How we doing on time? Oh, we're doing great on time. Great on time. It's been less than an hour. We'll try to finish this tonight, or at least get to a very happy place. The other reason I like using the brush is because if I just use the markers, doesn't necessarily help me out when I'm painting. As you can see, I just added a little bit something there. Like I said, I'm not a slave to what's already down there. If I feel something different, I'll throw it on there. Because as the picture tape shape, I have to evolve with wherever it's taken me. Now here's where, I took the time to do these circles nice with the template, but now I'm just coming in and I'm messing it up with the brush. But it gives me a good path to follow, if nothing else. In some areas, I can be sloppy, like right there, but then like there's some areas like around the gun, I have to keep the line integrity because I want this to be a nice finished piece. At a convention, be a little bit different. I wouldn't be as precious with some of the line work. Also, at a convention, there's so much going on. There's so much noise. There's so many distractions. People are trying to talk to you, and it can be a little hard to focus on what you're doing at the table. But as I do this ink work, the picture really starts to talk to me, and helps me get into that flow state of this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And then that gives me about a 80% assurance that I know the direction I'm taking it. And then once I get to the last, probably, or not the last, but the next 5 or 10% to take it up to 90, 95%, I'm really feeling good. Just going in, knocking out some details, seeing what I like, what I don't like, but I never get to 100. I can pull out a picture that I said I was finished with last year. I can pull it out right now and I'll see a bunch of different areas that I want to go over. And I think that's just the nature of the work. Now here's an area I really should use my multi-liner for. But like I said, this helps me with my painting. So I keep the integrity and use the brush. One, it gives a much better line quality. And when I go to paint next time, I will still have some good hand-eye skills because I'm essentially painting right now, just painting with ink. And that's, for me, it's already starting to take shape. I'm already starting to see the direction I want to go with this. And that's that part of the feeling of the artwork that I just love. I need to take my time on the face because the face is the part that everybody looks at. People know what a face looks like, and they know, especially what famous faces look like. So I like to make sure I'm taking my time with the brush. And this is also a place where I'll take some liberties and maybe deviate from what's actually on the movie screen to what's going to make a good illustration. Because at the end of the day, that's what I am. I'm not doing marketing art for the movie, I'm doing illustration to honor the movie. And with that, maybe it turns into something that somebody's like, wow, that would look great on my wall, on my desk. Because that's really the part of the process that I love the most. And it's not just making the sale, it's getting something that somebody connects with. There's some people who just collect and go, oh, I can sell this for more. And that's cool. That's also a good feeling. It's like if you get it from me and you think you can sell it for more, I'm down with that. But the best feeling is when a person's flipping through and they just go, ooh, I gotta have this one. To me, for me, much better feeling. Much better feeling. around the face here, so pardon me for if I get a little bit quiet. Again, the face is it's not one of those areas I can easily cover up if I mess it up. And as you can see, I had some detail in this neck, and I just wound up going over it, blacking it all out. I think it looks better. And it gives me a chance to transition the light and the rains. Just a little artistic transition from light to dark to light to dark. Something that most people won't even notice, but it'll just feel right when they look at it. Now, some of the best parts I like inking are when I'm doing truly natural organic shapes that have no fixed structure. Like your nose has a structure. Messing with the shape of the nose, people look at it and go, what the heck is wrong with that nose? However, if I'm doing a tree, no one can look at a limb and go, that's not the right tree limb. There's no such thing. So I think that's looking good. It's really starting to take shape. And I talked about maybe blacking out the whole shirt, which I am going to do because I think it's going to really help the arm and the pistol pop. And there's no detail in it. It's just a large open area. It has no value in except for shape. And so I can exploit that little bit of it and help frame the picture. And here I'm working with some folds that again they just need to look right, but they can be off a little bit as far as the line work. And it'll be fine. And I'll even come in with a little with the hands. All right. Now this is going to be, I wish I had my other pen. I have another pen that I use for inking large areas. It puts out a lot more ink. I don't have one with me right now though. This pen, and it's another Pentel brush pen. It's just the one that has it's doesn't have a case. It just has a tube of ink and a brush, and that Joker is great for blackening in large areas. Um, I have to make sure I keep the shape of the fingers. I don't want to mess it up because again, people know what fingers look like. And if they look wrong, people go, the fingers are wrong, and they won't even know what's wrong. And it's not an insulting thing. It's just human nature. We look at faces and hands and bodies all day. We look at our bodies, we look at other people's bodies. So when you see something on a human that's incorrect, you know it's incorrect. Your body's telling you, you're not your body, your mind is telling you that's not right. And you may not even know what's wrong, but you know it's wrong. And you go, yeah, I don't think that's right. And you'd be right. This is looking dry. Am I out already? Nope, I'm doing good. I'm just moving too fast for the ink flow. I haven't checked comments in a while. I think we're good. A lot of people have jumped in and out, so I'm going to say thank you once again for everybody who stopped by. Wow, this list is long. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody who stopped by. Um, I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. In fact, I appreciate it probably more than you know, especially since I've been gone all summer. And before I left, there was a nice little rhythm to the shows, and people know when to jump on and what to expect. And I kind of, when I took the summer off, I didn't know if anybody would, jump back on. So seeing people pop on here and there is much appreciated. Um, and I find myself saying too much. I've been working with some people who say a lot, and I don't like it. So I'm going to try my best to stop saying it because I know what words I want to use. I don't need to use. It's a bad habit. My grandmother was a school teacher, and she would jump on us for saying You would go and she go um's not a word. What does mean? And we say, Ma, you know what I mean? And she goes, No, I don't, because is not a word. And she would not accept coming out of your mouth. But like I said, recently I've worked with a lot of people who use that, and I've kind of picked that bad habit up. I don't like it. Also, um, I just did it again. Also, in my previous position as a senior project manager, I did a lot of presentations, a lot of public speaking, a lot of participating in audiences and groups. And when you're looking for the word, the best thing to do is just be silent, get your words together, and then use your words. Silence is better than This is really starting to take shape. I'm really starting to enjoy the way it's coming out. Again, this is John Wayne from True Grit. And I forget what year True Grit came out. I didn't see it when it came out. I saw it after it was out for a while. I think my dad saw it when it came out. And then we watched it when I got older. Uh, I stayed up late and we watched it together. And it's funny because some movies I would know a lot about, and my friends would just look at me strange, like, how do you know that movie? And I go, how do you not know that movie? And they go, because I'm not 100 years old. Because growing up, sometimes your parents just felt old, even though they were not that old. My mom is old now. She is 87. My dad has passed on. Miss him big time. That may be one of the reasons why I'm starting Tombstone Tuesdays. Is because it's that connection with my dad, who passed about 2 years ago. And it was one of those things that we really enjoyed doing together was watching movies, watching older movies. See, that's a stroke you can only get with a brush. You can't get strokes like that with marker. Or you can. I can. It just takes a lot more effort. But strokes like that with a brush pen just come out so much more natural. Feel your hands, you son of a bitch. I think that's looking pretty good. Now I'll come back over here and I'll jump on inking some more of this. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do with these folds, but I think I'm just going to black them out. I was thinking of whether or not I was going to hatch them, do some cross hatching, or some single hatching. I think I'm just going to black them out. and then I'll blend them in with some cross hatching. I think overall I just want to go with some nice deep blacks. The other thing I have to be careful of is now with all of this and some of these areas are really thick, I'm at real danger of smearing at this point. So it's important that I rotate and I have my maul stick just in case I need to, which is really cool because I can take this and there's a little lip on the bottom of the drawing board here. So just putting it on the lip and here, it never touches the paper. And so I can be right over this heavily inked spot and not worry about smearing. But I can also rotate the paper, make sure I'm at the right angle, and hopefully that will prevent some smearing as well. Because if I keep my hand on the white of the paper, I don't have to worry about smearing. Now those are the parts that I know for sure I wanted to black out. Now I'm gonna go through and just areas that I wasn't sure about before. I'm just gonna go through and I think they're gonna get the treatment now. Where I think it could be defined, add some shape, add some levels, some depth. And then the other thing is to make sure that I don't ink areas that I don't want to draw attention to. Well, Chelsea, thank you for the fire. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. That is very kind words. Oh, I made a mistake. I didn't do the ink work on the gun before I did this, so I'm gonna have to use the mall stick for that. Otherwise, I will smear it. I didn't even see that. But it's coming along pretty good. I think we're getting there. We are getting there, and we just hit about the hour mark. So I think that's pretty good for an hour, and I think we'll finish it tonight. And I say finish, and that's not 100% correct. I should say we'll get to a stopping point tonight. All right, I'm gonna need the stick now because I do want to go start going back over some areas. We're gonna get to a stopping point where I'm happy with it for the time being. And I'll basically need to sleep on it. One of the things about I mainly use this for painting because my paintbrushes are a little bit longer. When I'm using this for inking, it doesn't work as much as well as I would like for it to because this is a smaller instrument and I really need to be closer sometimes. But sometimes the angle is just not right. And so I find myself drawing at funky angles than I would like. But I have to be careful because I'm in smudge territory now. The cool thing is, if I catch it fast enough, I can actually erase it. If I catch a smudge at this point fast enough and jump on it with an eraser right away, I can actually erase it. Once it's dry, this ink isn't going anywhere. So that's the curve that I wanted. Filling it in, I can come on this side and it won't be too much of a problem. But I needed to get that curve in first because of the natural throw of my arm and wrist. If I tried to do it the other way, it would have just came out funky. I wouldn't have liked it. What's funny is sometimes I'll do uh, a stroke with paint or ink that I just absolutely hate. And someone else will be like, oh my God, I love this part right here. And in my mind, I'll go, the mistake. And I'll go, why do you like the mistake? Oh my God. And they don't know. They're just like, no, I like this part. And I go, whatever. Nope, I don't want to do that. And right now I'm just looking for areas that I think could use some, I want to say dynamic brushwork because it sounds cool. And I'm also looking at areas where I know that there should be a shadow. There's places in my mind I go, I know there's a shadow there. Whether or not the reference photo shows it or not. And that's the illustrator in me saying, there's a shadow that's supposed to be there. Okay, we're getting there. But I think here, I actually want to black out a little bit more of this. And I'm actually going to go ahead and make that a solid line. Really separate that arm out. Okay. get a piece of paper and lay it over this so I don't smudge it as well. Let's just chalk that up to me being lazy and not and doing what I know I should be. Pardon me why I really focus on not smearing while I'm doing the gun. Is my big head in the way? Hopefully not. It's hard finding that perfect angle where where you can see the camera, but I can still lean over and not get my big head in the way. Okay, I feel a lot better about where this is going. The gun was just looking a little bit too plain. I know it needed some work. No, you are correct, Gus Bus. At this pace, I will not sell many on the night. You are correct. But that's okay. We'll just call this a therapeutic session. But it'll give me some stuff to put into the store and take it from there. And I know we gotta have some more to this hat, right? Come over, kind of up, over, up. And follow the brim and bring it on down. I think for the most part, on Tuesdays and Friday nights, those really aren't big sale nights, to be honest. The Saturday sketch card Saturday night is where I fly through the work a lot faster. Those are That's mainly fan art, comics, things that I draw so much that it's just easy to bust out a Superman or Spider-Man or an Iron Man or Hulk. Whereas something like this, I don't do this very often, so getting it to a point that looks great is more important than necessarily getting it to a point that's sellable. But for people who are definitely looking for the purchase pieces, I would highly recommend Sketch Card Saturday Night because I fly through those a lot faster. This one I'm probably being a little bit more precious with than I really need to be honest. But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying this ink work. And this may be the only thing I do tonight. I really intended to maybe do two, but honestly, these are at a much higher price point as well. But every time I stop to look, see something that I want to add just a little bit more to. And I think I'm just about ready to give up the goat on this one. People are saying themselves, give up the goat. What kind of terminology is that? And honestly, I don't know where it came from either. It just came out of my mouth. And this is also, I had planned on painting tonight. But because I hadn't finished the last painting, I'm doing this ink work. And I think I feel like I need a little more something on the rifle up here. I think that's about it for the brushwork. And now I'll come in with my 5. And light's coming in this way. So I'm just gonna, there's some areas that I just want to thicken up a little bit. To emphasize the shadow side. And last but not least, we come in with our 1. And we just throw in some of the details that we want to emphasize, like the hair. He's got scraggly hair. This is a smaller shadow, so I don't want to go in heavy on it. A little finger knuckle play. Palm of the hand wraps around like that. And those little marks just kind of help define some areas. And some areas don't really need to be super defined. All the lines don't need to be overemphasized or anything like that. That area on the hat is really in shadow, but I don't really want to. I think that would be too much if I go in there with that. Although it just doesn't look right the way it is. Just give it a little indication that that's under shadow. Okay, I like that. And I think it took about an hour and a half. Definitely longer than I thought it would be. But hopefully it turned out to be a nice illustration for you all to see. The last thing I would do if I was to do anything would maybe be to take a gray marker and add some grayscale to it, but I don't need to do that for this one. I think it's fine the way it is. There's a little bit of smear right there, which I don't like. So we're going to eliminate it. Smear gone. It was bugging me. It had to go. The problem is I could keep noodling with this for a long time, but I'm going to call it. I think that's a good place to stop. I could definitely continue on just seeing things that I would like to do a little bit better, but honestly aren't necessary. And I think that's it. I think we're going to call it pen and ink drawing John Wayne True Grit. I'll sleep on it and I'll let this dry so I can really just get my hand on it. And I'll probably take the point one and just go over a few more details in the rifle, uh, maybe something in the hat, add some texture or something. And that's it. After it's done, uh, next week, I think we'll work on the painting for this, or we'll either paint this on the painting, or we will do the pen and ink for Butch and Sundance. So that'll be next week on Tombstone Tuesday. If someone has a special request, let me know. Other than that, uh, this will be it for this week. Friday night will be Fantasy Friday, and I will be painting a Minotaur. And then Saturday is Sketch Card Saturday night. That's where we do the quick sketch cards for people, and I do all of the fan art for DC, Marvel, Image, all those comics. And after I finish with them, I put them up for auction for $1. And then if nobody buys it, then I put it in the shop at full price, which is usually $20 and up. But if you're there when I finish it, you can pick it up for $1. And I don't think there's a deal better than that. So thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. And that's John Wayne, True Grit, Pen and Ink Drawing. Peace out. Thanks a lot.